and so on. And every year we look very carefully to try to find a poem that kind of encompasses Texas as a whole to begin the collection with. This year that poem is Voices from Both Sides, Communion on the Rio Grande, from Ann Ellis from Houston. And Kelly is here to read that opening poem.
I should mention that Voices from Both Sides was a festival that happened in Big Bend, and the people from both sides went into the middle of the river and shared poetry, and it was a big celebration, and I was real moved by that. Voices from Both Sides, Communion on the Rio Grande. Driving from Big Bend to Houston beyond an iPod of eclectic Tex-Mex mix, I am marginally aware of a tenuous strand of barbed wire and those 3 big tires dragged intermittently across the caliche dust to keep a clean slate for footprints. All those sights to see or not see. Should we stop at Judge Roy Bean's, read about wrestling and justice west of the Pecos, visit the hanging tree, speak of Lily Langtree, her creamy skin? Mine's white, by the way, but dotted with age. At every checkpoint, we get waved and away we drive. Mountains, desert, that thin thread along the sudden sky, all recede. The rear view of rush hour San Antonio leaves just ghost dust and impression. This is fast forward, of course. Texas is slow. There's time to ponder the guilt of my clean conscience and car, nothing and no one to hide. Time to speak of the folks from both banks who wade in the water of the Rio Grande armed with poetry, music, bread, wine. Time to transgress and time to transcend. Time for Salute and Jimmy Dale Gilmore. Time for our minds to wonder and wonder how Texas can be so terribly big and still not big enough. And this poem is from my book, which I don't have here, but I just want to show it to you. Some Women Started Shaken, and it's a Houston poem. And I had gone to a workshop Tony Hoagland gave, and he suggested layering poems with nonfiction, and I didn't know how to do that. So I just flipped through a Joseph Campbell book and just like looking for a scripture randomly. I found a page and used it and layered it in this poem, and it kind of worked. It's called Agamemnon at Cons. So some of these lines were Joseph Campbell, not me. Agamemnon at Cons for Blythe. The rooftop of Cons Wine Bar is a great venue for tragedy if you bring lawn chairs. Modern literature is devoted in great measure. On a muggy night in Houston, forgo the wine, imagine the stars, and turn on the fan. And to a courageous, open-eyed observation of the sickeningly broken. Let it blow across the city the cold of Clytemnestra's vengeance. Figurations that abound before us, around and within. Scent of battle sweat and entrails spliced to slit of throat, scream engorged. And there is no make-believe about heaven, future bliss, and compensation. The college kid chorus in Target t-shirts remonstrates in urgent murmurs to alleviate the utter darkness, the void of unfulfillment. Clytemnestra slays her husband, rightfully so, along with his lover, who will not lie, to receive and eat back the lives that have been. And you, your eyes, my murdered daughter, accuse me of nothing I did, toss forth from the womb only to fail, and curse the nothing I do. In comparison with this, our little stories of achievement seem pitiful. Thank you.
let's head back to Austin and bring up a woman who's very familiar with the Texas Poetry Calendar because she co-edited it with me for quite a few years. Austin's own Cindy Huyser.
So my poem's early in January.
January 4th.
Thank you, January 4th. And
I did my homework.
and it's a 2-line haiku, so I'll read it twice. Narrow edge of cactus blade, delicate white curls. Narrow edge of cactus blade, delicate white curls. The other poem I'll read is from my new chapbook, Burning Number 5 Power Plant Poems, which you'll find on the table in the back. And this poem is a poem I did in a workshop of Scott's called Night Shift on the Turban Floor. And it's patterned after Charles Wright's poem, Clear Night. Night shift, turban floor, dangling incandescent bulbs. Steam courses through throttle valves, governor and blading. Black-rimmed gauges shake. The floating foundation trembles through my boots to its own settling frequency. I long to be one with this machine, steam-driven, spinning and shifting. I long to feel my bearings snug in soft babbitt and washed in pure filtered turban oil. I long to press my pulse outward through miles of copper windings. And the transformer answers, what? And the disconnects answer, what? And the Boilermaster wobbles with the AGC, and the spray valves answer, diaphragms traveling in millimeter precision. Thank you.
The workshop Cindy's talking about is a workshop I do most summers out in Alpine, and I was just in contact this week about doing this coming summer's workshop, which will be, for those of you who are interested, if you want to start planning ahead, I believe the week of July 19th through 20, or 18, somewhere right around there, 18 or 19. I'm not sure. They're still working on it. But anyway, keep that in mind. It's a great week out there. A number of you have been out there, and a number of you have had poems published from your experiences there, so I'm very pleased about that. Let's bring up another Houstonite. This is a man who's recently become a master naturalist, and his name is Jerry Hamby. His poem is the week of January 25th.
First of all, I want to thank Scott and David for these readings. The two of you have done more to promote Texas writers than anybody I know. It's great. I grew up in the Panhandle, and the two poems I'm going to read are based there. This is from the week of January 25th, Black Ice. Somewhere on Highway 287, Childress, Quanah, Chillicothe, towns that slide past every 15 to 30 miles, we ease to a red light. Today our progress is measured in hours, not minutes. A winter storm has shadowed us since Amarillo, glazed the road with black ice. On an overpass near Vernon, a sign warns of wind gusts. A Plymouth Fury darts from the twilight, clips our rear bumper, and as we fishtail onto the shoulder, spins out of sight into the frozen mist. My master naturalist training has inspired my poetry, and I particularly love Palo Duro Canyon up near Amarillo. It's the one thing I miss most about living there, is just being able to go out and hike almost endlessly. This is set in the summer, and it's called the Perseids. 600 feet below the flat table of the Llano Estacado, we lie on the floor of Paladuro Canyon. The last cedar log smolders to ash, and even at midnight, the heat of the day seeps from rocks and earth. Backs pressed to our bedrolls, we peer into a moonless sky and soak in the showers, the only ones these parched plains will see for months. But they deliver no rain, only light, radiant arcs of comet dust, celestial debris that sparks and dies as it tears through the atmosphere, reminders that we too ride a massive rock, gliding on its orbit, careening through the Milky Way on an uncharted course.
Heading back to Austin, let's bring up Christa Pandey. Her poem is The Week of September 27th.
Since we've just finished the football season, you may appreciate this poem. Pair confusion. The first cold snap blew crimson blush into the Bradford pear. Within a week, the rest turned longhorn orange, yellow of the mountaineers, aggie maroon. Who knew that trees too had a hard time rooting for just one football team? I'm sure you have families where you have these conflicts of interest. I know this is a Texas Poetry Calendar reading, but I felt the times have been such that I want to read you something a little bit more serious that I wrote about a month ago or so. Them. Another black young man killed by police. Another and another and another. Why are cops only trained to kill, not shoot a leg or thigh to incapacitate? Are some so brutalized from serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, has sight of comrades torn to shreds by IEDs, their flesh wounds healed but not their heads, created mindsets of revenge? Or is disgust at black man's rise so deep in some, a hidden loathing for a president who had to swallow pride of half his family as white as cops with guns and label himself black? His own skin, universal brown, harks back to one drop theory, though never in reverse. How many pints of blacks' blood are of whites who fathered them with slaves? Is nothing else but skin superior? Too many brown and black folks taught us greatness, moral compass, and humility. We don't need lines drawn in the sand. Thank you.
Well, let's head a little further west and bring up Margie Roe from Cedar Park. She's in the week of December 20th.
Let's see. It's called Winter Time. Thoughts fly off into the evening. Bring back nothing but business. All day, I tossed up the quarter hours, only high enough to catch them easily. The winter light discourages, saying, it's too late. These days fold up so early, By the time the night sky sprinkles out its shining salt, I am under covers, my head tucked against a white pillow, thinking of things other than the sky. Yet, I can feel time streaming through me, like the Milky Way, with its myriad points of light. This is a rather old poem from a book that I have done. It's called "Only Once Have I Seen True Reverence." Only once have I seen true reverence, but it was enough. Deep in a forest where holy things happen, my son and I, pushing through branches, threading a trail, came to a clearing of stones and grasses and blossoms. And closer than dreaming in the sunlit clearing, a deer, still and staring, and we stared back. "Look," said my son, breathing the sound with breath of his soul. As if he had seen, perhaps he had seen, the high surprise of holiness.
And now we are going to go way further west in Texas, all the way out to Odessa, and bring up Loretta Diane Walker.
This is a prop I hope I don't need, but this is called Shameless Promotion. This is the book I'm not going to read from. I'm just showing you that I have it. I was told that's called Shameless Promotion. Unfortunately, the last year, 99% of my poems that I've been writing about have been about cancer. So I was debating on reading a poem from here or reading one here, so I'm just going to go with these. This one, the first one, the one that's in the portrait calendar, I don't know what.
It's in the September overview, where you see the calendar for the month of September. This
is Dawson, Texas, 1958. If you want to do the math, you can figure out how old I am. The sweaty, salty smell of birth pressed against the walls of the small house in Dawson, Texas. It was September, but an exhausted summer kept kicking out heat. The sky above the piney woods murmured with a mouth full of stars and yawned, exposing a long black tongue of darkness. A child wailed her way into the world, testing her voice in light and air, arms and legs flailing, reaching as though night was her father. Did the stars in their ancient wisdom know that in 55 years she would be exiled to a leather chair with the red devil dripping into her veins? That devil would return her body to baldness even as it was at birth? With her eyes closed in prayer, she receives the wind covenant. She listens to the holiness of its fanfare, trumpeting in the castle of her skin.